The moment she stepped into the first-class cabin wearing a simple ivory linen dress and modest flats, the atmosphere around her changed. The whispers came first sharp, fast, full of judgment. Then the stares, like cold blades cutting across her quiet dignity. The passengers didn't need to hear her name or see her ticket. They had already decided she didn't belong. But what they didn't know was that this soft-spoken, unassuming woman they had just humiliated was no ordinary passenger. She was Madison Cole, wife of billionaire entrepreneur Marcus Cole and co-founder of Horizon Skies, the very airline they were flying on. She blended effortlessly into the crowd that morning at Denver International, slipping through the terminal without fanfare. Madison was a black woman, slender and elegant in her simplicity. Her natural curls were loosely pulled back, framing a face full of quiet strength and gentle warmth. She carried a worn canvas backpack, no designer luggage, no flashy accessories. Just her laptop, a tattered novel, and her grandmother's silver bracelet that she never took off. That bracelet, etched with faint flowers and years of memory, was her talisman. Her grandmother had once told her, "A person's value isn't seen in clothes or gold, but in their character." Madison lived by those words. She approached the gate for Horizon Skies Flight 718 from Denver to Seattle, handed her first-class ticket to the gate agent, and smiled. The woman behind the counter, a young blonde named Emily, took one look at Madison's appearance and her polite smile quickly faded. Her eyes flicked up and down, pausing a little too long on the scuffed flats and the plain dress. "Can you confirm your full name?" Emily asked, her tone polite but laced with suspicion. "Madison Cole," she answered, softly but clearly. Emily typed something rapidly, her fingers striking the keyboard with what felt like disbelief. A man in a tailored navy suit behind Madison spoke before she could even blink. "Excuse me," he sneered, "your seat must be back in economy. This is the first-class line." The gate agent's lips twitched at his words. Not quite a smile, but close. Madison felt the heat creep up her neck. She didn't respond, only glanced at the man with the kind of patience that had taken her years to master. After what felt like an eternity, Emily handed her ticket back, her voice clipped. "Seat 1A. You may board." Madison thanked her, walking with quiet grace through the gate. Inside, the cabin gleamed with understated luxury. But as she entered, every head turned. Every gaze weighed her. The moment she sat down, a woman across the aisle let out a loud scoff. "She looks like she walked in off the street," the woman said, loud enough for others to hear. Her name was Vanessa Blake, wealthy, white, and clearly used to being heard. Madison said nothing, though her grip on her grandmother's bracelet tightened. The next insult came from a younger woman seated near Vanessa, who pulled out her phone and began filming. "Guess she wanted to see what rich people fly like. Hope she doesn't steal the napkins." Laughter followed. More phones came out. Others joined in. A man near the back chuckled. Probably saved all year for this seat. But Madison didn't flinch. She kept her face calm, her eyes on the window, her hands still resting on the silver bracelet. Then came the flight crew. The head attendant, Nora Fields, stood beside Madison with a forced smile that didn't reach her eyes. Flanked by her subordinates, Jenna and Keith, she leaned slightly over. "There seems to be a mistake," Nora said. "You're not listed as a VIP. This seat is reserved." Madison handed over her ticket again. "Please double-check. I believe there's been a misunderstanding." Nora's smile dropped. Jenna folded her arms. Keith loomed beside them with an air of silent menace. "If you don't move," Keith said quietly, "we'll need to call security." A murmur swept through the cabin. Madison nodded once, stood, and gathered her things. She said nothing, her posture composed as she walked past them into coach. But the humiliation had sunk deep. As she passed the curtains into economy, more whispers followed. Guess she was faking it. Unbelievable. At the back of the plane, seat 34C, Madison sat down beside the lavatory, the smell of disinfectant sharp in her nose. Tracy, a young flight attendant, dropped a frayed blanket in her lap and walked off without a word. The cabin erupted in laughter again when another passenger pointed a phone camera her way. "Pretending to be something you're not," a man muttered. "Stay in your lane." Madison didn't cry. She read her book. She held her bracelet. But every second of that flight etched itself into her soul. When they landed, she walked off the plane quietly. But the worst wasn't over. At baggage claim, a video of her being escorted to coach was already going viral. Posted by Vanessa, shared by dozens, captioned with slurs and mockery. Imposter in first class, one said. Know your place, another chimed in. But they didn't know her place. Not yet. Madison didn't go home. She went straight to the Horizon Skies headquarters downtown. She walked through the mirrored lobby where her portrait hung on the wall, unrecognizable to those who had just mocked her. In the executive conference room, a meeting was already in progress. Marcus stood at the head of the table. When she entered, the room fell silent. This, he said, gesturing to his wife, is Madison Cole. My wife. My co-founder. The woman you humiliated on one of our own planes. The color drained from faces. Nora, Jenna, and Keith sat near the front. Tracy was also present. Not one could meet Madison's eyes. She has a 40% stake in this company, Marcus continued. She wrote the very customer service protocols you violated. No one dared speak. Then Madison stepped forward. I'm not here for an apology, she said, her voice steady. I'm here for change. Because what happened to me yesterday doesn't just happen to me. It happens to countless others who don't look the part but who deserve respect. She laid down a report. 27 cases of racial profiling and discrimination on Horizon Skies flights in the last 6 months. Names, times, actions. All documented. This ends now. The board backed her. A new initiative, Dignity in the Skies, was born. Every employee, from gate agent to CEO, would undergo comprehensive anti-discrimination training. The offending staff were suspended, later reassigned to positions where they would confront the human cost of their prejudice daily. Nora now worked complaints. Jenna handled luggage in the rain. Keith cleaned aircraft between flights. Tracy served coach full-time. And Horizon Skies changed. 3 months later, Madison flew again. First class. No one questioned her. No one filmed her. As she boarded, Logan, once cruel, now humbled, greeted her with a respectful nod. Welcome aboard, Mrs. Cole. She smiled gently. Thank you. And as the plane rose above the clouds, Madison Cole sat quietly in her seat, holding her grandmother's bracelet, knowing she had turned pain into purpose and prejudice into progress.